All right. And we are live with our first transitional episode, last episode of 3BQ. I guess you might say that, right, Coy?
Yeah.
Just want to let everybody know, Boost, Booze, and Barbecue, it's not dead, but we are putting it on the shelf for the time being because we're starting a new endeavor called the Horsepower Hour. Let me just fill people in real quick. So I was actually working with a business manager to get this show going, and I wanted to call it the Horsepower Hour. We had a business plan. We had a plan for sponsorships. We had some dealerships we were supposed to work with, all that good stuff. This was literally at the turn of last year, right? And then two big things happened with our world. One, I was rear-ended by a drunk driver, and it literally is just, I mean, put me behind the eight ball like you would not believe. And then two,
was that in the bathhouse?
That was in the bathhouse, yes.
Okay.
I told you they called me a manual trainee. So, and then COVID. Listen, COVID. Nobody saw COVID coming. Well, except for all of the, wealthy
elites,
the Chinese and the Illuminatis and everybody that got the vaccine 2 months before. Yeah.
Judging by all of the politicians that made a whole pile of money pulling their stocks out before COVID hit. Yeah, no, I'm with you. But I mean, needless to say, we didn't know that any of that was going to happen. And so it really put the show on the back burner. But now, for some reason, and I don't really know why, Coy, the last couple of weeks been really interesting. Now, all of a sudden, COVID, people are saying, oh, yeah, it's over. We're done. We're lifting all the restrictions. So I'm pretty excited to have all the restrictions lifted. And I think we're going to be able to get back into this thing. So we call this show the Horsepower Hour. We'll call it the Horsepower Hour. We're going to be going to as many live events as we possibly can. We're going to keep posting those in the group. If you want to come and check our Facebook group out, it's facebook.com/groups/the Horsepower Hour fans. That's just going to be a place where everybody can go. We've already got Justin Bussell joining us. What's up, man? Thank you for joining. And please do give us any and all of your feedback. We're going to go a little bit different with this than we did with 3BQ, but it's going to be a lot of the same good stuff. And recently, I felt like on 3BQ, we really started hitting the car stride. I'm really happy with some of the automotive content we've been putting out over there.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt like it's time. This week is the one. And by the way, we're joined by one of my favorite people, Aaron Samuelson from the Offroad Podcast. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing great. You got my podcast name right.
That's awesome. A first, and it might be the only. I'm just warning you right now.
Yeah, so, we haze Coy anytime he comes on our show and just make up absolute bogus names for the 3BQ podcast for him.
Yeah.
That's what most people do. That's what most people do. I do appreciate you having him on the show, by the way. That was a personal request from me. It's sort of like Make a Wish.
Yeah.
I think he wanted to be on a better show, but he got you guys, and we're appreciative.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like Make a Wish, but it was something I just wanted to do before I became diabetic instead of dying.
Well, yeah. Right. There is that.
Speaking of diabetic, what do you got there?
Well, so we're not going to be doing our mystery beer of the week anymore. I'm just going to go ahead and pop this open. Coy, I want you to taste and enjoy, my friend, this celebratory beer. And then we're going to start the first ever Horsepower Hour. That's a little bit of a misnomer. It's not the first Horsepower Hour ever. I have recorded episodes with Matt D'Andrea from CarCast, with Stephen Cox from Meekum Auto Auctions, Ron Hughley from the World of Speed, which is actually no longer, they didn't survive COVID. But anyways, we've got some really good stuff. They're a bit dated now. What are they, a year old, those interviews now?
Coming up on it, yeah.
Yeah, but they're going to be good, and hopefully those people will want to come back on and give it another shot sometime in the future. But maybe I should let you try this before we go with the actual show. What do you think?
All right, let's do it. I actually like that.
It's not bad.
Nope, it's not dark, but it's a hazy Indiana pale ale called Swearwolf.
It's not Indiana pale ale, it's Indian pale ale.
Yeah, I've heard it both ways.
Yes.
And on that note, you guys, let's get this party started.
This is the Horsepower Hour.
Hello and welcome to the inaugural episode of the Horsepower Hour. This is Andy.
This is Coy.
Coy, how you doing, man?
Doing great, man.
What do you think about this new intro music, buddy?
I love it.
Something to dance to, you know what I'm talking about?
It's it's very air guitar-y.
I was shocked by how many friends I sent that to, just kind of, getting the feelers out. And they told me that voiceover in the front's bonerific. And I was like, maybe I shouldn't ask my wife to do that. But I think it sounds pretty good.
You know why this wouldn't sound good in outer space?
Why is that?
Because there's no air guitar.
Oh, buddy. Oh, buddy. That was a deep pull. That was a deep pull. What's not a deep pull is getting our guest on today, Aaron Samuelson from the Offroad Podcast. How you doing, man?
Yes, I'm doing great. Happy to be here.
And thank you for being here. I appreciate that. A lot of news happening this week, you guys. A lot of news. It's kind of crazy.
I feel like COVID is kind of dying down, and the auto manufacturers are like coming up for air. And letting go of a lot of what they make. Yeah.
I mean, just cutting stuff loose wholesale. It was funny. I was reading an article about cars that are technically still available new, but aren't going to be available anywhere much longer. You know, the Volkswagen Golf, that's on the way out. The Dodge Dart, apparently there's still some like 2018, 2019 models left available of that.
Yeah, it's because they're such insane heaps of trash that people just quit buying them. Dodge didn't really quit making them. They just wouldn't sell anymore.
Yeah.
They're just like, well, we got a slow production because we have some still. It's been 2 years and they still have some.
We've already buried so many out in the desert. I don't know how much longer we can do this.
Yeah, it's like when you have that one kind of jam in the back of the shelf that's gross, and your wife's like, we out of jam, and you're like, well, we got some left, I guess, but I mean, we could get some more.
Aaron, what's the car that is on the way out that you're excited to see go?
On the way out, the Ford Mustang.
Ouch.
Burn.
Damn.
Is the Ford Mustang on the way out, though? They say it is, and then they say it is, but it'll be electric Ford Mustang. But
Wow, really?
I don't know, man. I don't know. How much longer is the Camaro going to be around?
it's got to stay around forever.
You think so?
We're not running out of rednecks.
It's gone away before, though.
It has?
I thought they stopped.
Oh, yeah, it's true. There was a early 2000s there. It went away for a little bit.
Yeah. Did the Mustang ever do that?
Not that I'm aware of.
No.
It should have. There's a spot there like the late 70s, early 80s where it would have been better if they just quit making it for a few years, you know?
Right.
Maybe let people have a stronger taste of those Mustang 2s, turbo Mustang turbos, you know? When that era, we could have stopped making Mustangs for like a 5 count, you know?
Well, here's a fun one for you. Did you know that there are no 1998 Mazda Miatas in the U.S.?
I was unaware.
That is not a model year. They skipped 98. We went 96, 97, 99. The 99 was the introduction of the NB body style.
Yeah.
So in 98, you were just buying 97s? Interesting.
Yeah, little fun fact for you there. All right, you guys, let's get into some news. This is a really interesting one. Probably not going to spend a whole lot of time on it, but I thought it was kind of a fascinating thing. GM will phase out gas and diesel engines by 2035 and build an all-electric fleet. It pledges to become carbon neutral by 2040, and Cadillac will lead the charge. Coy's got a dead look in his eyes.
Sorry. First of all, do you ever believe what GM says?
Absolutely not.
I like it. They're just like, by 2035. That's like, I bet that they said that all cars would be flying in like 1950. They're like, by 1975, all cars will be kerosene-powered turbines and we'll be flying. Like, yeah, you just push it out 15 years and say whatever the heck you want.
Yeah, this is the PR equivalent of kicking the can down the road. What do you think, Aaron?
I had the exact same thought. GM says a lot of stuff, and a lot of stuff doesn't happen that they say. I do believe that they're going to push towards that goal for sure, but I don't know if they'll hit that goal soon enough.
You know, I still need to see proof that the new Hummer has 11,000 foot-pounds of torque. Like I haven't started believing that yet. So I have to catch up on the things that GM says that I'm going to believe.
Yeah, there's no way. There's no way. And it's not that I don't believe that we're not heading in some kind of an eco-friendly direction, but do we really have any viable options besides gasoline right now? I mean, here's the question that I'll go ahead and pose now. Where are we getting the electricity from?
But yeah, there's not enough electricity to power all electric cars at this point. Honestly, if we were smart, we would probably start going natural gas powered.
Mm-hmm.
We have plenty of that. It makes better power, has less, like it's better on every level. So, but we just don't have the infrastructure for it. And electric infrastructure is kind of already there. It's not enough for us all to go electric yet, but
it's true, because right now we're still powering, a bunch of stuff. You know, the electric buses that they're using at Yosemite National Park.
Yeah.
So it used to be 40 gallons of diesel per day that it would cost us, or them rather, to drive those buses around, right? It's now, what'd they say, 130 or 150 gallons a day to run the generators to power the electric buses.
Nice.
Yeah. So this whole thing of, we're doing it for the environment, it's not really coming to fruition yet. And so that's why I'm really not putting any stock in this. 15 years from now, really?
Yeah, I mean, it's always that way. In Portland, Oregon, they built a bunch of light rail down 205 and stuff. And because, you drive less and you take the light rail and get stabbed or something.
Mm-hmm.
But all the equipment and man hours of diesel equipment and stuff and dirt moved, they said it would take about 100 years for them to break even on that pollution for traffic saved. So it's kind of, to wash. And those light rails, they need to be kind of redone every so often.
About every 10 years.
Yeah, like it's not that long. So
Jim Clack's in the comments saying that's a whole lot of wishful thinking there. I could not agree more. Here's something that's not wishful thinking, though. Edelbrock is shutting one of their oldest headquarters down. I don't think they're going under as a company, but they're closing their Los Angeles County headquarters after 83 years of business there.
I'm honestly surprised that they're there still. I mean, everybody's been fleeing California in the manufacturing industry. I think they've just stayed this long because they had some kind of loyalty to California, because that's the birth of hot rods and that whole scene there.
Mm-hmm.
SoCal hot rod scene.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They are said to be laying off the majority of their 270 employees. So I don't know what the future holds for Edelbrock. Maybe everything gets shipped to China. I mean, honestly, what exactly are we doing here now?
I'm sure these 270 employees will just work on windmills now. So
they should learn to code. You know that, right?
They should become typewriter repairmen.
The thing about Jegs is, they had a foundry they worked with. They had machine shops. They have engineering companies that they work with. This is not the trickle down effect of them closing the doors on this facility is going to be, the fallout's going to be felt for a long time.
Yeah.
And just, as a total sidebar, I kind of think it would be fun to have a character on the show named Edelbrock. See what they have to say, What do you think, Coy?
I like it.
Yeah, we were just talking about whether or not the Camaro is going to be around for much longer. We need to find what our boy Edel has to say about that. You know what I'm saying?
Edel T. Brock. Yeah.
Aaron, you ever used any Edelbrock anything on anything you've built?
I did. Yeah, I had a 79 Ford F-250 with a 460 in it. And someone told me that the best way to make horsepower with that engine is intake and exhaust. So I bought a Edelbrock aluminum manifold and a carb, and then the cheapest headers I could find, and a dual exhaust kit off of JC Whitney. So
JC Whitney, yeah, that's taking me back.
Yep,
JC Whitney.
Coy,
that's where I ordered my double stack wings from.
Didn't you one time buy an Edelbrock Honda intake manifold? I don't think you ever used it.
No, I had a Jackson Racing supercharger that was bare that I never used. I want to say I bought an Edelbrock carb for my 22R. I can't remember. Maybe they don't even make those. It's been too long.
Jim Clack says he's got an Edelbrock cam, intake, and carb on a 68 Mustang. Uh-oh, Aaron. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
You talk any more mad crap about the Mustangs, you're going to have one of our listeners coming after you.
Yep. Well, 68's a good one, though. Like, late 60s, everything was good.
Yeah.
Chevy pickups were sweet in 69.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
69 for me is the magic year of hot rods. There's no bad vehicles in 69.
And they were underrating everything.
Yeah.
What does this thing make the tire? 420? We'll tell people it's 360. It was something that they did. I thought it was a beautiful time. What a time to be alive.
They had the gentleman's agreement before the gentleman's agreement.
Yeah.
It was a reverse gentleman's agreement kind of, though.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember that move from the bathhouse. Anyways, speaking of going fast, you guys, by the way, how do you pronounce this? The Tuatara. Tuatara? How do you say that, Coy?
Yeah. Deep vein thrombosis. So as close as I can do. It's a DVT.
Have you heard about this, Aaron? The Shelby cars.
I've known about SSC for a long time because they've always claimed that they were going to blow everybody out of water with their speed, and they kind of get there. Their cars have been messy and stuff like that. This new one looks pretty radical. I read the article. I wasn't aware of the speed record that they tried to break in November in Nevada.
Did they actually try and break it? I mean, it was an unofficial one, right? Because they just they just got a hold of the county, closed down a road, and were testing. During testing, I believe they broke the record, but it didn't hold since they weren't breaking the record.
According to the article, they claim that they did 326 miles an hour in Nevada, and a whole bunch of people called them out and said your car doesn't have enough horsepower to overcome drag to make those speed claims. There's no way you did that. And they apparently never kept the records. They never kept their data on the run, so they couldn't figure out whether they really did or didn't. So that's why they did this new speed run.
The only real proof that they had was photos and video taken from inside of the vehicle at the GPS monitor thing, and it showed it was 300 and I think it was 316, Aaron. So they went back. That by the way was a long flat straight road, I think 20 miles worth of road, so you can really run that up as hard and as fast as you want. But they only did it in one direction, like you said, during testing, so unverified. They have now broken the record on a 2-mile long runway. So they did a dig start and just banging gears the entire time.
3 miles.
Oh, sorry, 3 miles. Excuse me.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be honest with you guys, 282, almost 283 miles an hour as an average in both directions. That's not anything to scoff at. That's actually pretty impressive, if you ask me.
Yeah, I love this car. Like this, it looks supercar, but there's something about it that still says American. You know what I mean? Like it has
the plastic dashboard out of a Dodge Caravan.
It's not all the cup holders.
Yeah. They're actually technically burrito holders.
That's only if you pull out the little insert to make it big enough to fit like a Mucho's burrito.
When he hit 240 miles an hour, the wing mirrors start going.
There's still some controversy though with this run because they claim that they were down 300 horsepower. They detuned it for some reason by 300 horsepower. They also changed out the gearbox so they could get a better dig because they only had 2.3 miles to get before they had to hit the brakes, basically. So I don't know. Do you generally change gearboxes in cars when you're trying to do a speed run for a production car?
Well, this is a production air quotes car. I mean, they're going to make a group of them super customly. So yeah, I mean, and this is so what's 280 miles an hour? That's a mile like every 22 seconds or something. I mean, 60 miles an hour is a mile every minute. So you could drive this in 3 minutes. They did 280 down here. Like this was starting to stop in this 3.2 miles. That's how much time elapsed? Less than a minute, maybe
Right.
a minute. So yeah, I would change the gearbox versus when I went the other one. I had 20 miles.
Right.
Yeah.
So I would have went back. I would go to like the Alvord or Salt Flats or something for this record.
Yeah. Well, the salt flats are kind of going away. They've been sucking the liquid out of the salt flats when the rains come through, which apparently has just been ruining the surface. It's making it more slippery and brittle than it ever has been. So I don't think salt flats racing is going to be happening for too much longer. But yeah, that long, straight, flat road in Nevada, that's it, man. If you're going to make a top speed run in a car and then also possibly kill yourself, that's the place that it's going to happen.
Here's what they need to do. They need to enter the Silver State, Nevada time speed distance race.
There we go.
And the guy that used to have the fastest speed on road average did that. And then he said, heck with the time speed distance, and just pinned it as much as possible the whole way and got the record. Obviously came in super badly in the race,
Sure.
But because the race is you have to hit a target time, which isn't based on how fast you can do it. For people who don't know what time speed distance is, they should do that because that is timed. I mean, that's timed down to milliseconds.
Right.
And they can just, and that's, miles and miles.
Right. They'll be pissed. They'll be like, what is your problem? Why are you doing this?
Why did you pass someone at a time speed distance that you're clearly losing?
Right.
Yeah.
In fact, you passed 18 cars.
I have a feeling they're going to it'll be their run next, and they're like, go. And they'll just sit. Oh, sorry. My helmet came undone,
I dropped a glove.
My dashboard's coming loose. Hang on a
Race
second.
2000
Pop
quote.
it back into place.
So I think these guys way back in the day with one of their previous cars, not this Tuatara or however you pronounce that, there's a really straight road out of where Tri-Cities are in Washington. There's like
It's right by those three cities, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Really
I
close.
know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
There's some straight like 18-mile section of county road up there that they had closed down. And back when I lived in Washington, I was into the Subaru scene. I was like, oh, I need to go find that road and not have it closed down and see how fast I can go. Never did, but yeah, I'm sure the road's still there.
It'd actually be a lot of fun just to watch you trying to keep this thing going down the road. It's 98 miles an hour. You're like, come on, baby, 2 more. Give me 2 more.
106. Yes. Triple digits.
Hey, if you want to go fast, you might be looking at getting yourself a school bus here real soon. I don't know if you guys saw this or not. And listen, you're probably going to be thinking, you're crazy. Why are you even talking about this? Well, I have a reason for talking about this. So let's check this out real quick. Bluebird is commissioning the Ford 7.3 liter engine for all of their new school buses. They're doing away with the diesel because they run non-turbo diesels in all of their buses, but they're going back to gas. And here's why. This 7.3 liter Ford engine makes 425 foot-pounds of torque. 400 and wait, 25 or is it 65, Coy?
I don't know.
It's a lot. It makes a lot of torque. And these things so far have just been absolute brutes. There's a shop out there. I should have prepared better and had a video prepared for you guys. I apologize, but there's a shop out there that's been pushing one of these motors to its limit, and they're making mid thousands of horsepower, 1,400 horsepower, something like that on one of these 7.3s
in stock form.
They've gone through, they made 1,000 horsepower on its stock, and now they've started going through, well, I mean, with, more fuel and stuff like that.
But turbocharged?
Turbocharged, yeah. No, excuse me, supercharged.
Supercharged, okay.
Now they've gone through, they've developed rods and pistons for it. But besides that, it's a stock block, outer block, whatever you want to call that. Not short block, not long block. Anyways, doesn't matter. The point is, they're making ridiculous amounts of power. And now there's going to be a whole crap load of school buses with that same motor in it. Now, granted, this is a detuned version. It's only going to make 350 horse instead of the 400 and whatever that they make when they go in your truck, right?
Right. But in 20 years, there's going to be a ton of these motors available.
Now you're picking up what I'm putting down.
Yes.
These decommissioned buses are going to be worth their weight in gold if they've got these new 7.3s in them.
So your 2036 Cadillac CTS VE, E for electric, you find a crashed school bus, slap the 7.3 gasser in there, twin turbo it. Yeah.
Cadillac CTS VE 7.3.
There you go.
And I apologize. I grossly screwed up on the power numbers. They're going to be making 350 horse, 468 foot-pounds of torque.
I'm sorry, and that's on propane.
Yes.
So, that's propane makes less power than gas.
Gas or propane. It's my understanding that they'll do one or the other.
Okay. Well, propane, usually you take a little hit in horsepower figures. So.
That's some pretty serious muscle, you guys, in a school bus. How long do you think it's going to take to start decommissioning some of these? 10 years?
I don't know. They run them a long time. I want to know if these are good enough, how long before somebody breaks in and steals a bus motor? The hood comes off almost like in a minute. And they make these buses to be easy to work on and fat. I bet that motor, if you were a bus mechanic, you could pull that motor in an hour.
It's going to be Fast and Furious 11. They break into a schoolyard, jack a bunch of these motors. Yeah, it's coming.
Yeah, right before Race Wars, all week before Race Wars, all the school buses come up missing motors.
Abso-freaking-lutely. I can't wait to just have one of these buses. Here's what I'm hoping, you guys. Here's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping that I can
race him, Jesse. He's got a 7.3
from a school bus in them.
They do it during the summer while school is out, but they only borrowed the engine. They bring it back and they put it back. It's all tuned up and it's got the supercharger on it still when they bolt it back into the school
There's
bus.
A huge hole in the side of the block.
You can actually hear it coming down the road. It's
if I did break in and steal borrow a 7.3 for Race Wars, I wouldn't put any work into it. I would do what Andy says. I don't know how much nitrous it would take to blow that engine, but I know how much I'd use.
Yep, all of it. You mentioned how old of school buses do people use? I'm pretty sure when I was in high school back in the 90s that we had school buses from the 50s and 60s at the school I went to. So
yeah,
they stick around for 30 plus years.
Yeah, but they get handed down. I mean, think about the amount of money that it costs. Let's say a church is buying an old school bus. It's not going to cost them $20,000-$30,000.
And then steal the money or the motor out of the church bus.
Well, yeah,
that's what you're saying.
Yeah,
that's an easier way to go. Coy.
Yeah, it only nobody's looking at it for a week at a time.
Exactly,
and they have to forgive you.
Yeah, they can't call the cops.
Wow, that's a really good point.
Technically, they have to turn the other cheek, so they should give me their other 7.3. Yeah, by my math, I've been to church before. I'm pretty sure you owe me another 7.3.
Wow, that's a really good point.
See, that's nice because I went to so much Sunday school. I know the loopholes now.
Yeah.
The religious loopholes of engine stealing.
I'm like a religious lawyer, still going to hell.
Yeah.
But like all the other lawyers, but yeah.
Well, Coy has almost got me convinced that we're actually here. Speaking of, you guys, so speaking of going to hell is what I mean. What I really want from this bus, from this motor, is I want to find the shortest of short buses that has a 7.3 in it. And then that's just going to be my ride. I'm going to figure out forced induction. I'm going to figure out nitrous. I'm going to figure out anything else I need to figure out. But I want to roll one of those short buses, maybe start replacing the windows with Lexan, make a carbon fiber body for it.
You won't have to do a remote turbo on that. There's lots of room under the hood for at least 2, maybe 3.
Boom. Yep.
That's true. You know what I would do is I would fortify that body. And they make those buses. So if they get in a wreck, the bus just exits from the frame.
Right.
That way, when you go off track and you just hit the tire barrier, you just launch the whole bus. Like I would actually weaken those bolts,
Mm-hmm.
you know, trim them a little bit, because that would be nothing better than to launch your bus body off.
Oh yeah.
Possibly maybe like one of those old Hot Wheels when you'd run them into the wall, they would fly apart. Remember those?
Oh yeah.
I had friends that had those. Do it like that. So you're driving down the road, you hit the eject button and just pops your bus body off. You go skidding down the track.
I was never wealthy enough to have those Hot Wheels models, but yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. I saw
I do wonder if they're putting these in school buses when they're going to end up in motorhome chassis as well, though.
That's true.
Soon.
Have you seen that picture recently on social media of the guy driving the motorhome chassis with nothing but a helmet on? It's just an empty chassis and a motor.
Oh yes, I have seen that. It's in like Mexico though.
But that's okay. I mean,
yeah,
it's always in Mexico. When we do stuff, it's in Mexico too.
Well, so I have an interesting twist on that. When I was a kid, we lived in Junction City for a little while, and there was an RV manufacturer there. And where they made the chassis with the engine and everything else was not in the same facility that they put the bodies on. The bodies went on like a mile away, half a mile away, something like that. So it was a pretty regular occurrence for my parents to be driving, because I mean, I was young. I wasn't driving, obviously, although I probably could have driven better than my dad. Let's be realistic. And we'd get past or pass a dude literally just sitting on a seat that was very shoddily bolted down, and it's his bare frame, and he's just up there driving because it's got to go from the one facility to the next. I seem to recall you've seen that a few times, Coy. Yes,
I've never actually seen that, but I grew up in farm country, and they had these things called hay wagons.
Ah, yeah, there you go.
They auto load hay, and that's basically what it is a bare shell. Some of them have cabs, but I was in not the rich farmer area, you know, so a lot of them was just a dude hanging out there, like just waiting to get killed. And on hay wagons, you're actually the driving position is like on a boom out kind of in the front corner. So if somebody so much as taps that corner, you lose your legs or die.
Yeah, you're toast.
Yeah,
it was
all done.
It wasn't actually a fault, Aaron. It was a feature.
Do you Wow. Do you remember Honda did a concept and they made one, and it was kind of it was like a S2000 version of a low cost, but instead of sitting in the body, you sat on the side with the motor beside you.
Oh yeah.
It looked amazing, but just looked like an insane death trap.
A fast death trap.
Yeah. Yeah. It was just basically an arm came out that was bolted to a bucket seat, and you sat between the front and back wheels on a, little Ariel Atom looking thing.
Yeah.
I would like to make one someday.
Well, I wonder how lightweight a absolutely stripped motorhome is, and how fast you can get it down the drag strip with that Ford 7.3.
The answer is probably it's not very light. And the second part of your question, the answer is depends on how much boost you're pushing through it.
Yeah.
You don't need slicks if you got a dually, right?
Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully Motor Trend or Car and Driver will be around to test that for us. Get it in the an issue in the next couple years.
We know the American Top Gear is not going to do anything cool like that, so
well, maybe we'll have a new engine for them to check out, by the way.
Can I go down a little rabbit hole with the American Top Gear?
No, please. Yeah.
So my sister and her husband have just started watching that apparently. And she was telling me the other day, she's like, yeah, we watched another one. They did some sort of off-road thing. They went to Moab. I mentioned I was going to Moab, and she's like, yeah, actually there's a guy on that show that both Jerry and I, her husband, both Jerry and I think that it's just like you. I mean, just like you. And I'm like, oh boy.
Dak Shepard.
Which one is it? She's like, oh, well, it's not the Tanner guy, not the short Tanner guy. And I'm like, oh, she's back a few years in her episodes. And then she's like, I can't remember his name. She's Googling it on her phone. And then she's like, it's the guy in the flannel. I'm like, oh, not the guy in the flannel. Rutledge Wood. So apparently I'm like Rutledge Wood. So
we know Rutledge lost a lot of weight.
He's just different.
I don't know why you're laughing.
Maybe I'm
It's
just a weird guy too. Maybe I'm just like Rutledge. I don't know. I'm a weirdo. So I like cars and I'm weird and have a terrible sense of humor. I'm not sure.
Well, listen, let's break this down a little bit. Looks like a bear, check and check. Has a beard, check and check.
Yeah.
The wrinkles around the eyes that you have, those crow's feet that are coming on.
No.
That's all. That's
Check.
all Rutledge Wood right
Can't
there.
believe either of these guys got a job in media.
Right.
Check and check.
Can't keep your hands off of the mic stand. Check and double check.
This one right here.
Okay.
Our inaugural episode, everybody.
Just get a piece of paper and play with it in front of the mic.
I don't hear anything. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm sure you don't.
All right. Hey, listen, we were talking about engines. I'd like to swing us back around to that. I don't know if you've seen this, Aaron.
I'm excited for this one. You're going to have to tell me all about it. I only looked at the pictures.
Buddy, this is an interesting story right here. This fella has actually created his own engine company. That's how serious he's getting about this. He's calling it Neutron Engines. He is building himself a K-Series Honda-based V8.
I like everything about this. I mean, let's be honest. The K-Series motor, at this point in our history, possibly the best four-cylinder ever made.
They call it Honda's LS.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, of four cylinders, like there was times when there were others in this run, but at this point, K-Series is the best four-cylinder motor made.
Yeah.
If you want power.
Yeah, hands down. Power, reliability, rev range.
Does it have torque?
We'll get there.
Through gearing.
I mean, does the original K series have torque? Not this awesome thing that's being built here.
It does.
For a four-cylinder, I guess, and the type. I mean, just the original K series, all around best four-cylinder. I mean, they're putting it in everything now. You either K swap or you LS swap. That's all. That's all we do in America now.
And K swap is about 4 times the price. I'll tell you what, boys, the K20, great motor. Producer Nick, by the way, has got a K20 in his Civic Si. He just got himself 2006 on the Civic Si, and he's rocking the K20 A2 or 3 or whatever it is, the better one. This fella that's building these engines, he's decided to go with the K24. So you were asking about torque there, Aaron. Thinking that this thing is not going to do too bad on torque, honestly.
4.8 liter. Now, the part where the exhaust comes out top center, I feel like that's going to be awkward for a lot of possible swaps.
I agree with that, but because of how small the frame is for this engine, I mean, think about the size of it. It's the size of an LS, if not smaller, and it's double overhead cam. It's got the exhaust basically coming out of the center valley. It's got the intake manifolds down below. It's going to scream to 8,000 RPM all day, every day, really without fail and without issue. I think that this has been a really fascinating piece of engineering, and I really do hope that this guy makes it all the way to be able to make it. It has an interesting story. So this fella, Craig Williams, he was basically diagnosed with a chronic lung disease and decided he needed a project to take his mind off of things. And that's what this whole engine is. But the more he sorts it out and sources his parts through 3D printing, custom machining, he's starting to realize how doable this is. And I found it interesting. The intakes are reversed from where you would think they were, because it makes mounting all of the accessories, the timing chain tensioners, all of that so much easier, because he has access to that valley.
And where I feel like this engine really is going to see is in a front wheel drive platform.
You think so?
Well, I mean, think about it. I think that this doesn't take that much more space than a K24. This is still going to fit in a lot of these front wheel drive platforms. If it'll still bolt to these front wheel drive transmissions, which I don't see why it wouldn't.
I'm thinking that we're going to start seeing these in some mid-engine cars.
It's possible. Aerolatum, low cost would be a great one. But if it was in a in a front wheel drive platform. So it was, longitudinally mounted or latitudinally mounted, I guess. Having that exhaust on the top out the middle isn't as, you can route that down and around and into the back of the car or fender exit or whatever.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. What are you thinking so far, Aaron?
I love it. He gives prop to John Hartley and the V8 that came out of the Hayabusa engine. Have you guys seen that? I'm sure you guys are familiar with that, being car nuts. So that was the first thing I thought of when I saw this, which is pretty rad. I don't know much about the Hayabusa V8 thing that he built. First thing I noticed actually on this is that the engines, they aren't in line with each other in the sense of they don't both face forward. One faces forward, one faces backwards. And you have to do that to get both exhausts in the same spot or both the intakes in the same spot.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun motor.
Just real quick, Jake Jaden says, I think that exhaust will make turbocharging so much nicer. And Benjamin Allred says, instant access should make a turbo cake. I think these guys are onto something.
Just saying, I want to see this motor in every Miata and most BRZs and FRS.
Oh, could you imagine this engine in a BRZ? Holy smokes.
My concern though is the height with those crazy exhaust manifolds.
I was at first, but I realized I would never run a hood if I had this motor. So it makes no difference.
Oh, hey, look at that. I didn't scroll down far enough, apparently.
Yeah, so for those that are just listening to the audio version, you can click the link below in this podcast. We've got links to all the articles that we're talking about in the description of the podcast, so go and check that out. But if you're on video watching right now, we're showing a photo that's basically a comparison of I believe this is a Coyote motor or a Voodoo motor, the 5.2, in comparison size-wise to the footprint of this engine, and it's very similar.
Yeah, it's maybe a couple inches taller. It's real close.
Yeah, it's the Coyote. Yeah, it's a tiny bit taller. It doesn't hang down as low, so yeah.
And it really is no wider, even with the intake manifolds on it. Yeah.
Those intakes are just begging for a front mount intercooler to just feed them.
That's what she said. Almost something like that.
Those intakes are begging to be replaced with like dual Jackson Racing superchargers in those locations.
They'd easily fit, right?
They should. And plus, you could pop the hood and be like, yeah, it's a stock VA with two superchargers that are hidden underneath the heads.
You can't see them down there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not a bad point, Coy. Wow.
Yeah, I do that once in a while.
Dang.
Also, I'd like to point out this guy has a lung disease. He's probably going to die. So it's possible you could get a cursed motor, which I've always wanted.
Well, yeah. Because you don't want a car that's going to fall in love with you, but you kind of do want a car that's going to try to kill you.
You want the car, yeah, that wants to kill you, but it's got your respect. Yeah. So it tries to kill you, but you outdrive it. And then it kind of helps you race.
So a little less Stephen King, a little more weird anime.
Yeah, that one.
Gotcha. Listen, Aaron, I'm sure you have a lot more thoughts, but I feel like it's time to move on, my friend. We've got an all new segment ready for you guys, and I'm pretty excited about it. You ready to do this?
Ready.
The Horsepower Hour presents this month's Top 5 of the Week. Today. And this month's Top 5 of the Week today, right now, we're doing Overlooked Overlanders, you guys. This is right up your alley, Aaron. I remember when I threw this out there, I was like, is it going to be too flimsy? And then he just lists off like 11 rigs that he'd buy right now to go overlanding that I had never even looked at. So let's go over them a little bit. Tell us what's on your list, boss.
Well, you threw this first two out, the Subaru Baja, and At first, I was taken back by that because I was like, well, why not Subaru Outback? But that's not an overlooked rig, or the Forester. The Baja is definitely an overlooked Overlander rig.
And not only that, man, it's got a 2.5 foot long bed. Like, imagine how much beer you're going to be able to hold in that.
So one of the first like snow runs I did with Get Out Off-Road back when I first started kind of off-roading in my FJ, we came up and there was a dude in a lifted Subaru Baja. He had a roof rack with he liked to go up and ice fish and cross country ski, and he'd get as far as he could, and then cross country and ice fish. He had like a CB antenna on the roof rack, some Max Tracks, and we'd been in deep snow for a long time when we got up to him, and he would just kind of got stuck on this hill, and I went up and I just pushed him and got him going again, and he just all the way to the top, and it was just, a convoy of off-road rigs, and he just needed a push to make it the same place we were going.
Wow.
I was impressed with it.
You're a bit of a Subaru guy, so this one probably kind of struck a chord, right?
Yeah, a little bit, but I mean, these are absolute redheaded stepchild. They never had a good motor.
Like the rest of the Subarus, though.
That's a good point. You guys had a guy on 3BQ a couple episodes back, and he was talking about his Legacy GT, and you mentioned something about ringland failure, and I hung my head in shame because at 40 some odd thousand miles, my Subaru had ringland failure.
So we're going completely off topic here, but just for anybody that's wondering, the reason why Subarus have ringland failure like that is because from the factory, the rings are cut too close. There's not as much of a gap as there needs to be. They don't put a lot of gap in it because the less gap you have, the less gases and compression pass over those rings. And so you get better fuel economy, better emissions. But once you start getting those bad boys hot, as tends to happen with the 2.5 liter turbo STIs, people like to get those hot because they like to run them at about 400 horsepower. Those rings, the gap then touches, and then the rings flex, and it breaks the ringlands, and it makes a bunch of like ground pepper, but more metallic shavings in your motor.
Yeah. I think to add to that, it seems to always be a specific cylinder, and it's the one that gets the least amount of fuel, which also makes sense.
Gets that piston a little bit hotter. Anyways, moving on to our number 2 pick. The number 2 pick was mine, the Honda CR-V, the first gen. There were available limited slip options. There was an available manual transmission option, and they all ran the dual overhead cam, non-VTEC, B20. And Coy, you'll remember from our street racing days, those CR-V B20s, they were considered the stroker Honda motor. If you threw the B16 head on that, gave it some VTEC, they'd spin those up 8,500 RPM and make some serious horsepower.
Yep. There was also guys pulling the all-wheel drive system out of those and sticking them in wagons and all kinds of stuff to make all-wheel drive Civics.
I actually want an all-wheel drive Civic super bad. That's on my bucket list. But the CR-V, it actually had a decent amount of suspension travel. There are some options, some aftermarket options for lifting the suspension. Of course, these days, because of the popularity of overlanding, we've gotten some off-roady tires that are available in a more standard car size. And so now just kind of seems like a prime time to be looking at some of these vehicles. And I don't think people should be sleeping on those first-gen CR-Vs.
Didn't they also come with a table?
They could, yes, that was an option.
Was that a CR-V or was that RAV4s?
It was one of those two.
I'm pretty sure it was the CR-V. They had a little.
I thought it was a CR-V, but I don't remember. I feel like you could stick the RAV4 in that category. As being underlooked.
Had a factory supercharged option.
This guy's got a point. Actually, for a while there, not until a little later on in the production run, I want to say it was 2007 or 8, the RAV4 V6 was actually the fastest vehicle in the Toyota fleet.
They also made a 2-door RAV4.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's sporty. What was on your list, Coy?
I have just one that I brought to the table, and that was the GMC Safari / Chevy Astro in the all-wheel drive form.
Oh yeah.
Even as a youngster, I saw those vans like, what a heap. Ugh. But then as I got older, I got the chance to drive one, and it had I believe it was a 4-liter V6 in it.
4.3.
Yes. And I was like, whoa! I was like, this thing is awesome. Totally changed my outlook on Astros. And now I've seen a couple that were lifted in Overland out, and you can pick them up for nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. And it's that 4.3. The part, like any parts store, you could basically rebuild it from your local O'Reilly's.
It's literally a 350 with 2 cylinders chopped off.
All the parts, all the ingredients. They're not pretty, but they hold a ton of stuff, hold a ton of people. They make little lift kits. And once again, Subarus, the one good thing they have done is they brought us all-terrain tires in baby sizes. You can put them on these things and go.
Yep. The center differentials in these, very, very strong. So we know the Typhoon and the Cyclone, the Chevy Typhoon and Cyclone.
Yeah.
So it uses the same center differential system that the all-wheel drive Chevy Astro vans do. Believe it or not, that's actually a standalone unit. You can bolt it to many of the standard Chevy transmissions. You can bolt it to a T56, and you can run power to the front and rear tires using this little unit. I think they're good for up to 600 or 700 horsepower, but there are companies that are making different types of them. So if you're ever concerned about, I don't want to take this too off-road because I don't know if, the bits can handle it, worry more about your transmission than that center differential, because that is a tough unit. What you got next, Aaron?
The Honda Element. This one jumped out at me early. And it might not be completely overlooked. I don't see them out there. I do know that people know about them, but I don't see anybody in actually any of the overlanding Facebook groups that I'm in, off-roading Facebook groups, any of those things. I don't see anybody with Elements. And those were marketed back in the day for people with the outdoor lifestyle before overlanding was a popular term. So the seats all fold down and turn into a giant sleeping platform. They fold up to the side so you can stick jet skis or bicycles or whatever you're putting in there. I think they had rubber floors so you could just take a hose in there and hose it out after a rager. All that stuff. I do know that Ursa Minor makes a top for them too. You can cut top off your rig and put this Ursa Minor top on and have a tent top as part of your rig.
Yeah, Vanagon style.
I have actually seen one of those in Portland.
Where else would you see it?
That's fair. Well, maybe Bend.
Yeah.
I believe the Elements also had the plastic bodied sides. They were supposed to be replaceable and cheaper than the metal parts. I think maybe I'm screwing that up, but I think they were doing that before the Chevy Avalanche was.
I'm pretty certain you're right as well. I don't know if they all were, but the bumpers were really big and plasticky.
Like Saturn when they did the Tupperware bodies that were
Yeah, because everybody knows that plastic doesn't fade. So when you just go buy a brand new one that's colored and you bolt it on, it's not going to look, it's going to match, obviously.
Of course.
Yeah, it's not going to.
Kuwait, just bust out the Armor All. Come on, man.
Yeah. You're going to want to put yours in direct sunlight under a giant magnifying glass or some like UV lights to try and get that fade in faster so it'll match. But
all right, boys. Next up, the Suzuki SX4 Aero, which actually I've always been a fan of these, believe it or not. I always thought they'd make a cool street car. I always wondered if we could get more horsepower, make them streetable with their all-wheel drive system, but it sounds to me like there's some people lifting these and taking them off-road and doing okay.
Yeah, that just has like a push button on the dash from what I recall that you engage the all-wheel drive system, but not much horsepower, but they sip fuel. They're kind of lifted a little bit. They got a little bit of ground clearance from the factory, and you can take them on quite a bit of Forest Service roads and probably skiing and things like that in the snow. If you're a light overlander or a trail hiker or something, fly fisher, could make that work.
I dig it. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Coy, you and I actually have talked about this next one, the Suzuki Grand Vitara, because everybody thinks Suzuki Sidekick. What's their other one? I'm losing it here. Samurai. Yes, thank you. Everybody thinks about those for off-road rigs. Oh my goodness, the lifted ones of those we've seen around here, the Samurais. People will brag about, I've swapped out the 1.3. It's now got a 22R in it and all this other stuff. By the way, it's $9,000.
I still like those, but yeah, people want a lot of money for them.
I'm not saying I don't like them. I'm just saying it seems a little extreme, but not the Grand Vitaras. If you want to get there and you want to get there in style and comfort, this is not a bad way to go. 4 doors for more horsepower. All of the fold down seats that you could possibly want, a cheap, inexpensive, lightweight platform. This is back when Suzuki was still considered, I mean, your very budget brand. That was the bottom of the barrel, right, Aaron?
Mm-hmm. For sure. Still is. Still was.
But it's not.
Did they ever get out of that?
Well, but this isn't just the Vitara, Aaron. This is the Grand Vitara.
Grand, yes.
Grand. Yeah. The other one that I love is Isuzu Via Cross.
Oh my goodness. I love those so much.
I mean, obviously, no, they're not ugly. They're awesome. They're like a sports car that's lifted. It's what it looks like. It drove straight from the Dakar rally. You know what I mean? It's like, this is the Dakar mobile. It looks like a bad guy should be chasing you in one of those.
Straight out of the Dakar rally in 1991.
Well, yeah, not now.
Right.
No, I mean, it looks like a bad guy should be driving that and chase you. It possibly has ejection seats. I don't know. They look so awesome, and I want one super badly.
I thought that the whole point of the Via Cross was that Isuzu was like building this chassis system where you could swap bodies or something. I thought that was like the very first rig of the body swap chassis system. And obviously it never took off, but as a younger car enthusiast, I was excited to see where that went because I mean, swapping stuff it's what people do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I love the kind of long hood. It's got just it's just a 2-seater. It's honestly a horrible overlanding rig. Like, if we're being totally honest, like, it's cool, but it's got no space at all. The spare is like inside in the tiny trunk area. It's inside the door. So if you lift it, put bigger tires, then I don't know where you put your spare.
It's like an off-road Toyota Paseo. You know that?
But when guys swap these out, straight axle them and put them on 37s, so much yes. They look so cool. Get a transfer case and 37s on those, and I'm in.
So we got a couple of comments. Jake Jaden says he knows a guy with a Samurai that has a 350 on 38s. That is ridiculous. Jordan Lindblom, I cannot confirm nor deny this, so we'll just go with it. He says the Via Cross can fit 35s stock. Do you think that's right? Hang on,
let me get on my phone. I'm going to get on a Via Cross Facebook page and ask what the biggest tire can fit on a stock one is. Sure, I'll have the right answer right away.
Honorable mentions from you, Aaron. You said the J10 Jeep trucks from, long time ago. What's the J10 going to be? Those are going to be late 70s?
It's like a Gladiator truck from the 70s, and they're just cool. And to me, they look robust. I mean, they probably are, but they probably also fall apart, just like every vehicle in the 70s. But they just look so cool. Prior to buying this property, we were looking at another property, and the owner had one of those in gold on the property, completely stock. And I asked him if it was going to come with the house, and he said no. I was like, well, we're not buying this property then. But I had my fingers crossed.
So we're not talking about the flat fender though. It's a square body Jeep truck.
Yeah.
Am I thinking of the right one? Okay, it's the Comanche, I think, that has the flat.
No, the Comanche's like an 80s and smaller truck.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure there's a guy that works for one
Jeep Wagoneer. This is like a Jeep Wagoneer with
Yes. Okay. There's a guy that works at one of the rooftop tent places in Bend. It has like a brown restored one. He's on 37s, I think, lifted, and it's just gorgeous. Love that truck.
I got to be honest. I won't care about any of these vehicles unless it has the giant scrambler graphics across the side. Scrambler.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I was just like, oh, that sounds so, oh, that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Other honorable mention from you, by the way, was the International Scout. The reason why these are getting honorable mention is because they're now collector's vehicles. You're not going to find one for less than $15,000. And that's going to be in horrendous condition. Rust buckets.
I actually know a guy that picked up a rolled Jeep JK, and he had a Scout that he was restoring, had just gotten done with paint, and went, lifted it up, put it on the JK body.
Really?
Yeah.
Ooh,
Wow.
that's
I'd
fun.
roll that all day long. Hell yeah.
Yeah. So now it breaks down a lot.
All right, you guys, that's our top 5. This month's top 5 of this week today, right now. So we want to thank you, Aaron, for jumping in and helping us out with that segment. I like that segment. That was good. What'd you guys think about that?
It's a good time.
Yeah,
excited
we're going
to
to keep that going, I think.
Yeah. I can't wait to do it next month. Next Sunday.
Yeah, next month, this week, or right
Technically,
now.
next Sunday is next month.
Here's one special feature that we're not getting rid of because it is one of my favorite things to do, by the way. Smokin Deal or Smokin A Doob. This will never go away. We're bringing it from the 3BQ show. We have to. And by the way, this week, Coy brought his Smokin Deal or Smokin A Doob, and I was actually pretty surprised and pretty impressed with this. I think it's going to be a deal. But let's go ahead and get it up here. I'm going to put this big screen for you, Coy. Break it down for us. What do we have here?
Well, this is a 2001 MR2 Spider. Has 155,000 on the body. Has the Lotus 2ZZ swapped into it, which has 52,000 on that motor.
Does that also have the transmission?
It has the Lotus transmission. It's a non-LSD C64 6-speed manual transmission. It's on teen lowering springs, the Inky RPF1 15-inch wheels, Falcon RT615K plus tires.
I love those tires.
Everybody should.
Yeah.
They're so good. They're not going to win you any autocross championships. I understand that, but just
the plus is the newest one.
Oh,
615K plus.
Is it competitive?
It's supposed to be pretty good.
Wow. Okay.
So I like how they refuse to change. They started at 215 and then they said 615 and then they're like 615K and we're like, oh, okay, well, whatever. And now they're like 615K plus. And we're like, what? Now I want to know what we're going with next on that tire, you know? The plus minus, or like, are we going to do a KK? Can't do too many Ks.
Ooh. RT 615K divided by 0.
The square power of 2.
RT 615 mud and snow.
I would actually be curious about that tire. I love me some Falcons. FJ might be getting some new tires if they start doing that.
Let's see here. This advertisement says body and paint is not perfect, but it was a daily driver. So it'll have some door dings, custom high flow cat non-EPA.
That just means homemade exhaust.
I was going to say, does that mean it's a gutted cat?
No, it has a swap header. So it's got the Monkey Wrench Racing header that's made for this engine swap, but it's just a homemade exhaust system.
Oh, I gotcha.
Like a Vibrant, you know,
stock Celica GTS ECU. So an 8250 RPM redline. You and I talked about this the other day. I thought they had a higher redline than that.
That is the higher red. The Japanese one might be a little higher. It might be 8.5 or something, but then they bumped it down to like 7.8.
Oh, gotcha.
After this.
So this is the higher rev.
Yeah, it's like 2001, 2002 Celica's got a little higher rev.
Soft top is good. Short shifter. Yeah. Teen lowering springs, new XD clutch, and a resurfaced flywheel. No engine leaks. A whole list of stuff that was done to it. Looks like 200 PSI in all cylinders was the leak down test. AC works, power steering works. That's really, really impressive. It says also have an AEM EMS 4 for sale for extra.
Why do you have to list power steering works? When you do this swap, is it possible that it takes extra work to make the power steering work? or
No,
something?
actually,
What's that all-
there's a common failure in the power steering pump on these, and people don't replace them because they're a 2,100-pound car and it still steers really well.
okay.
But so it's something to list. It's got cloth seats. It's nothing special. It's not special. It's not the leather edition or anything, but it's white and it looks good.
I like this white on black. I think it looks really good.
Do the brakes work?
They generally do.
It's got.
I would hope.
It's got a brick holding it in the driveway.
I saw that. Yeah.
Maybe because the e-brake doesn't work.
Hmm.
I don't know. Either way, so it's $7,500. Coy, you've been looking at these for a while.
I have.
Talk to us a little bit. Tell us what's going on here.
Well, it's got the Lotus motor. That means absolutely nothing. Like, just pretend that that's a Celica GTS motor. And then for those that see Lotus motor and go, oh my God, it's so awesome. It is literally the same motor that's in a Celica GTS. It has different plastic on top of the valve cover. The transmission, so Lotus only actually made about 50 limited slip ones every year because they wanted to make just enough so that you could add a limited slip and still be in stock racing classes. Yeah, that's how big of that Lotus is. They're like, wow, we don't want to put this $1,200 option on our transmission. And the only way to tell that you had that option is they had a green paint pin mark on the transmission. That's how they did that. So if you have a Lotus and you'd like to sell it as an LSD, get a green paint pen and just turns out though, Toyota, of course, not so much in America, but in other countries, made a ton of these transmissions with the limited slip. But Lotus they built such a good car, they thought they didn't need limited slip, I guess.
Oh, I remember reading that when the Lotus Elise first came out. They were like, yeah, no, we're not going to do a limited slip because it doesn't need it.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, whatever. No, this is a cool car.
What would you expect to pay for just a stock, like non-swapped 1ZZ FE?
So stock, if it had 150,000 miles on it with a 150,000 mile motor, 5 or 6. If it, had a stock motor but low mileage, 6 or 7, depending on condition. So, yeah.
Well, so I mean, talk to me a little bit. Let's role play. Let's pretend that I had this car for sale. How would you approach me? Let's say that you did want to buy it.
Well, I'd ask a bunch of questions and, kind of cover all the bases. Is this the original paint color? Because a lot of guys have like yellow or black ones, decide they want to be white, but not mention that until you show up.
Oh,
you know what I mean? I've experienced some of that. Salvage title, another big one. These cars they're not worth a ton of money. They get a big dent knocked in them, maybe some suspension broke, but all the fenders there's no quarter panel. It's just front fenders, rear fenders. So you can replace all the fenders and fix it again. So guys like to not mention salvage titles. So you go ahead and throw that out there. And he also has extra parts. So find out what else he has. This guy, I messaged him. He had an extra trunk lid for a wing. He used to run a wing on this. He had a intake, 3-inch Monkey Wrench Racing cold air intake, and then he had the AEM EMS4, which is good, but you need all the harness and the stock 1ZZ ECU because you need that EC to run all your gauges and fuel, all that. So you still need the stock ECU, not a 2ZZ ECU, but 1Z ECU. And then you need all the corresponding wiring, harness, and adapters because all that stuff, that's like $1,300 for the ECU and the wiring. It's an expensive gadget. So, find all that. And then he said he would take $8,200 with the ECU. And I said, I will give you $70, your asking price, but I'm taking all the stuff. It's all coming with it. Whoa. And he said, okay. So I drove up and bought it yesterday.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. So when I saw this and noticed that it was sold, the reason why you still wanted to do it is because it's parked outside my house.
I own it now. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah.
So it was a Smokin Deal.
I felt it was a smoking enough deal.
You've been looking for a long time.
A long time. Yeah.
Plus, this dude was living, you said, basically on the edge of a sketchy part of town. So I think you were doing this car a favor by getting it now.
Well, he bought a Porsche to replace it. So.
Ooh.
So
soft top or hard top?
maybe the brick is to maybe make him fit in a sketchy part of town. You put a brick in front of your tire, so
I'm not sure what's going on there because the emergency brake works great. I have it. The emergency brake works fine.
I think Aaron's got a point. He probably put the brake there to make it look like the car's a non-runner.
It did come with a drive cam. So yeah. The nice thing about teen lowering springs is it's like every like bridge, expansion joints, like hitting a curb. So the drive cam from here in Seattle probably went off 83 times. It flashes with a big exclamation point like you're wrecking. I'm like, nope, no, there was an overpass. It's not that.
Oh man. Well, what's the plan? Are you going to start racing again, or what's up?
I'll be doing some light autocrossing probably, and kind of a date night Sunday driver. I plan on keeping this a long time. I've been looking for one for a while, and this is kind of got some of the main ingredients I needed. So yeah, it's just be a fun little car.
Yeah, the only way it could get any better is if it already had the Camry 3.5 liter V6 in it.
Yes, but that's rare, and you'll pay a lot more for that. So
yeah.
So you and I months ago talked about this as a gambler car. How many years is it going to take for us to lift it and put some 29s on there?
I'm going to wait. See, someday, hopefully, I swap this, and then I have a semi-built Lotus motor. I find one that's been wrecked a little. We put that motor in, so we got the power and 6-speed, and then we turn that the trashy one into the gambler, to the buggy, the MR buggy.
Keep shopping for MR 2.5.
Yeah.
I just quickly want to point out, I never thought that I would hear the host of the Offroad Podcast say, when are we going to throw some 29s at that bad boy?
Well, I haven't really been on any Toyota MR2 forums lately and asked, how big of a tire can I fit?
What's the biggest tire you can fit
on MR2
without a lift?
Well, speaking of Aaron, we're going to have a little gambler project that I think you need to be part of here pretty soon. Producer Nick, when he got that new Civic, I helped him pick it out. Jake actually drove down, helped him pick it out, took it for a drive. We went and checked it out. And his little Ford Festiva that he'd been driving, the whole time he's been working here, and absolutely beat the ever-living piss out of. I mean, he treated that car so horribly. I've never seen anything like it. So one day he came to the studio and his front wheels were kind of pointing, not like a whole ton, but visibly pointing towards each other, like toed in the front. And I said, Nick, what happened? He's like, what do you mean? What happened? And I said, why are there like chunks of concrete in your rim and now your wheels are pointed in a weird direction? Did you hit a curb? Nope. Didn't do anything. Eating up front tires like you would not believe. We got him in the Civic. He rolled that Festiva in here. Didn't even park it out in front of my house. Drove it and rolled it into the shop and was just like, all right, boys, have fun. Threw me the key and peaced out.
Nice.
So our first gambler comes courtesy of our underpaid producer. Who would have thought that would happen, huh?
I have some halogen KC lights. They're retro now. Turns out I bought those new at one point. They're 6x9s, 75 watt. So we need to get those on there somewhere.
Oh, for sure.
I've got 4 of the Chinese HID spot flood combos.
Yeah, combo.
I'd roll some of those. I think we're going to go ahead and do the hockey puck maneuver that Koi's been talking about.
Is that a bathhouse thing?
No, that's the tuna can. It's different. So the hockey pucks, you drill a hole through the center of them and you put those on top of your shock mount and get that shock mount riding a little lower, get the body up a little bit higher, give yourself an 1.25 inch lift, just like that.
Boom.
Okay. With the stink bug that I lifted, I used some plumbing fittings for the back and some wizardry up front. So I've got a few tricks up my sleeve.
All right.
How many tennis balls you got for us?
I didn't use any tennis balls, but I did rotate the McPherson strut 180 degrees so that lip didn't stick out so far. It stuck out on the inside to get a bigger tire in there. I couldn't get anybody to tell me the reason why not to do it.
If there's no one around to tell you no, then you just need to tell yourself yes.
Sometimes people are so busy, seeing what they can do. They don't take time. They don't take the time to see what they shouldn't do,
Mhm. I'll tell you something that we really shouldn't do, but we are going to do. We're going to drive from here to Bend on UTV knobbly tires because that Ford Festiva is a 4x114 bolt pattern. So I can throw UTV or golf cart tires right on that thing. So I am in the market for some nice knobbly, but not too big. They actually need to be on the small side, believe it or not.
ATV, not so much UTV.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's a good point.
Yeah.
12s, not 14s. Listen, boys, I think it's time to wrap this thing up. This has been an absolutely wonderful episode. I love what we're doing here. I think the Horsepower Hour is going to go some really well places. And I can't thank you enough for coming on, Aaron.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Let's see here. The Off-Road Podcast. What days do you put that out?
So we do just like you do here. We record live on StreamYard and share it out to our channels every Monday at 7 p.m. Pacific. And then sometime during the week, Ben gets it edited up and dropped out. We try to have it out midweek after the show has been recorded.
He tries to have it out midweek. What we're doing is every Tuesday at 3 p.m. You're going to be able to find this under the Horsepower Hour, anywhere you find your fine podcast, just like the Off-Road Podcast. Coy cannot be found anywhere, but you can email him thehorsepowerhour@gmail.com. Go ahead and message us through the Facebook page, through the fan page. Go and check that out. The Horsepower Hour fan page on Facebook. Go ahead and send us any messages you have. We love seeing them. We're going to have some amazing contests coming up here in the next couple of months, even the next couple of weeks. We're going to be giving away some merch, some shirts, that sort of thing. So do come and check that out. So Coy, thank you, my friend. And for Aaron Samuelson and Coy, this is Andy Will. See you next time. And that is the show. I want to thank everybody for staying tuned and checking it out. Jake, I don't know how big the tires are that we can fit underneath the stock Festiva. They're small. They're real small.
Jordan, swing by anytime.
All right, boys. Aaron, good seeing you, man. We'll talk to you again real soon.
Thanks for having me.